Welcome to Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockerell. Lessons in leadership, management, and customer service. You can create magic too. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and we have another listener question, Lee. I'm going to remove all the details and just ask the basic question here. So this is someone who was sent to help with some customer service on the front line, which is always the best place to start. And they realized that the problem with the service the front line was giving was the frontline manager was the issue. Like the front line in this area did not care for the manager, and it was reflected in the way they served customers. So here's the question. How do I handle letting the general manager who hired me know about this? I look at everything as an opportunity for growth, but this is a delicate issue as the general manager is the one who hired the front desk manager. And they said being direct and kind is best. I know that, but how do I handle this?
Well, that's called the word courage, and how strongly do you feel about it? And what's going to be the implications for your job and everybody else in the organization if that's not brought to the general manager's attention? And certainly, unfortunately, the general manager should know about it because if he was out and about and talking to his people every day and listening and finding out, you would get a sense. Somebody I did it a little earlier. They said, when does a manager become? How do you know when a manager becomes a roadblock to service and performance? And if you're a good general manager, you know. That's all I can tell you. You're out there, you know, you figure it out. And then you may have employees that have the courage to tell the general manager you should look into this. You could report it through HR and let them handle it so you stay out of it. You could send an anonymous letter and tell the general manager to just please look into this. We think there's an issue here and a lot of employees are not happy. There's a lot of ways that you can do it and still be safe. And unfortunately, there's not psychological safety in a lot of organizations, so a lot of employees are not going to take the chance on speaking up. But with this situation, if it doesn't get resolved, it's going to hurt you too because you work there. And it's also going to hurt the organization because you're going to start to have turnover and you're going to start to see things decline. And then your job's going to become in jeopardy because the business is not doing well. Uh, but this is one of those hard questions. How do you surface something when you're not at the right level in your opinion, or you don't feel safe surfacing something to the organization? You know, when I was at Disney, I put that confidential voicemail out and posted it all over property with my phone number that they could leave me a message. Anybody could leave a message. You can leave your name if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I communicated. There are many ways to get messages to me. Leave me a note, write me a note. You don't have to use your name. All I want to know is the issue so that we can solve it and resolve it. And so the general manager sounds like he has some work to do, or she, and make sure they know what's going on in their business. And the best way for a general manager to know what's going on is to ask questions as you go out in your business every day. How's it going? Anything bothering you? What can you tell me? I won't get you in trouble. It's totally confidential. Whatever you want to tell me about the business, we need to do better. It might be a safety issue. It might be a dishonesty issue. It might be a working condition issue. But I'm always open to listen and to hear, and I will not drag you into it if you tell me, and then I will take action and fix the problem. So there are ways to do it, and it's not often not done because people just don't want to take the risk. And so they still end up waking up every morning and going to work in a place they hate, and they're not happy. And I would say, is it worth it to speak up? And is the job, can you get another job? And it's unlikely you're going to get fired anyway. And hopefully you got a general manager that has some ethics that they're going to take some action. But this is always a problem, speaking up. I mean, this is the major problem in business and every situation, almost every crisis in the world, we find out later that somebody knew about it. It's unbelievable. Somebody knew about that person. They knew that person was dangerous. They knew that person had a gun. They knew that person was a jerk. They knew that, but somehow it didn't get up to the top where the person could take care of it. So it's a matter of everybody thinking about this deeply and thinking about a plan on how to communicate that to the general manager in a way that doesn't put you in danger. And you could probably do it and be safe and just be creative, figure it out, and then maybe after that, a few weeks later, people are going to come to work happy, and when they get a new leader. Or maybe the general manager sits down and has a hard talk with this person who's being a jerk and straightens them out and tells them, gives them clarity around behavior and how to treat people and how to build confidence and how to build support and commitment. And but as the general manager, they should be on top of this. And that's because they're not out and about. They don't know what's going on, and people don't trust them, or that somebody would have said something to them by now. So to be the general manager, you got to really be out there and about and open-minded and be able to take feedback in a way that's not going to hurt or harm anybody. And so this could be as much the general manager's fault as it is the department manager's fault. And you just got to think about what's the best solution. Hopefully you can make it. And a lot of people never do make it. And a lot of people find it just too unsafe. And then you got to decide, if you're not going to get it fixed, do you want to stay there? So somebody's either got to step up, or people are going to start to step out. So these are always hard issues when you want people to report on somebody above them, or bring it up or have a discussion. But there are ways to do it. And yeah, that's all you could do, I think.
Well, it's interesting, Lee, talking about having the courage to speak up, because that applies if you're frontline. In this situation, it doesn't sound like the frontline until the questions persisted by the person who was supposed to work on some customer service training. Then it came out, but it doesn't sound like the frontline had the courage to speak up prior to that. But I think, Lee, there's probably another side. Even the general manager has to have the courage to speak up and handle this in a proper way. So the people on the front line and the person doing the customer service training, they don't feel like they're targeted or at risk of something going to happen. So that also takes courage as a leader, Lee. Have you had a situation where I'm sure you have, where you've had to take feedback and handle it in a way where you knew once you bring it forward, the person you're talking to is going to know where it came from. And that's why people don't often have the courage to speak up. That if I say something, my boss is going to figure out it came from me.
Yeah, they may or may not figure it out, but it's true. And I've had that in my career many times. We all have. And sometimes we kept quiet and been miserable. And sometimes we spoke up and nothing happened, because most of the time nothing happens to you, frankly. And with all the laws and regulations and protection today, it's unlikely you'll get in trouble for speaking up. But people always used to say about me, because as you know, I walk the operation 2 and 3 times a day. I ask questions, and I had a feel for it. I was like your mother. When your mother knows what you're up to, because you feel it, you know the environment, you know the culture, you know what's going on, and people feel comfortable with you. Once people feel comfortable with you and trust you, they'll tell you, hey, Lee, you need to look into this. And then the general manager can really do a good job of not getting people in trouble. And maybe one person tells me, and then I spend the next week just checking in with other people, observing better, talking to people, trying to learn what's really going on. And sometimes, that person who's misbehaving, not being a good manager, maybe they don't even know how to be. Maybe they don't realize that they're doing it out of insecurity. They're trying to be tough. They misunderstand what the culture of the company is, and by the way, when they were hired, they should have gone through some clarity around the culture about how we treat people around here. And it sounds like that may not have happened there. And so the general manager's got a lot of work to do to rebuild his organization, probably, but he ought to get right into it and deal with it. Or he might be next. The owner may be on your case if you don't take care of it. But it's a hard thing, and it's I guess people used to say Lee knows what's going on around here because I was every time they saw me every single day, everybody. So they were very comfortable with me. And I always took action. And then they knew he takes care of it. We can, So I never had that issue of somebody losing their job over it or that I know of. I mean, it could happen, but when you take risks, things can happen. But if you don't take risks, worse things can happen. And that's what leadership's all about. We've got to continue to try to sell this message to people out there of how to be a good leader, how to be a good parent, not make your kids a mess, and not make your employees a mess, and not make them scared, and not make them fear, and make them want to only focus on taking care of the customer. That's instead of having to worry about the boss. So it's a complex issue.
Yeah, it definitely is a complex issue. And I think a good help with this is the Main Street Leader, which comes out every month. It's inexpensive at $10 a month, $19 a month if you do the Main Street Leader Plus. And you get a topic directly from Lee every issue that applies to situations like this. And before we return to that, I do want to mention our friends at Magical Vacation Planner. That this is who Lee and I always use for our travel. We've been partnered with them for years now. You can reach them at 407-442-2694. And Lee, it's interesting. The last two episodes have been about customer service and something going on where customer service isn't quite what it should be. And you have mentioned hiring every time. And I think that is interesting that quite often we get questions like this about customer service, and in this case, it's a bad manager, but it's always comes back to hiring. And I think perhaps quite often when people ask questions, they're looking for something they can do right now to work on this team right now, which there are things, but it is really interesting that it always comes back to hiring, Lee. Like if you are not getting hiring right, you're never going to fix these bigger issues.
We've talked about that. Every problem in your life is going to be a person. That's hired the wrong person, married the wrong person. I mean, it goes on and on and on. People are what creates problems, not the issues. The issues are created by people that don't know, don't care, do care. I mean, it's all attitude, good attitude and reliability. We talk about it all the time. Get the right people, you'll have you'll have the right business, you'll have the right operation, you'll have the right bottom line. And when you get the wrong people won't take care of the business. And they may not know because they haven't been trained. Nobody's told them. This is just, literally training and development. It's everything. Like when you have kids, you got to raise them right so they don't end up a mess. And we've got to really focus on being teachers and holding people accountable. I think Mr. Marriott said it best: training and enforcement, training and accountability. You don't have to love the customer, but you better act like you do.
Yeah, that's great. You don't have to love the customer, but you better act like you do. I think, Lee, we could expand that. You don't have to love every employee, but you better act like you do, or at least that you care enough to do something.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid. Most people want to be successful. A lot of people are doing a bad job because they don't know any better. They just don't know. And it's our job to make sure they know. And that's called training. That's called teaching. That's called helping people have a better life. The more you know, the more you can do, the more success you're going to have. Yeah.
Well, you've got some great tips on this episode on how to deal with things like this and hire better, get out, let people see you. Lee was out on the hotel every day. People knew they would see Lee and Lee would see them. And that makes a difference. If you go to cockerellstore.com, I mentioned Main Street Leader. You can find courses on customer service, on leadership, the Main Street Leader, or go to mainstreetleader.com. And right there, there's two options: Main Street Leader, Main Street Leader Plus. If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover, reach out to either one of us, leecockerell.com. I'm at jodymayberry.com. Until next week, go out and create magic for others.